Greatness has a pull that calls to us, a siren song that has echoed through human history. It's the reason we remember the legend of Achilles, the feats of Leonardo da Vinci, and the unwavering perseverance of people who shaped history. Yet greatness is not a path everyone is willing to walk. It's a road that promises reward, but comes with costs that are often hidden until it's too late to turn back. Let us consider Eli, a young man from a small, sleepy town. He's one of those who hears the call. For him, the dream is music. When Eli plays the piano, he feels a fire, a rush of energy that fills him up with life. Music is his escape, his sanctuary, and his voice. It's the one place where he feels entirely himself, unfiltered and free. But Eli's dream is not one that his family understands. They envision a safe, comfortable life for him, one where he has a steady job, a loving family, and a life marked by stability rather than risk. To them, music is a lovely addition to life, but hardly the foundation for it. Yet Eli knows he cannot silence the call. He's felt it since he was a child, a feeling as undeniable as his heartbeat, urging him to pursue a path that might cost him everything he's ever known, that will change his life. We see the struggle between his passion and his love for his family, between the familiar safety of his hometown and the boundless, terrifying possibilities of the world beyond. We glimpse the initial sacrifice he'll make, leaving behind the life he knows for a dream that's uncertain, intangible, and entirely his own. All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. Walt Disney. Eli's story begins with a universal question. Are you willing to sacrifice everything to achieve greatness? It's a question he must answer as he steps into the unknown, a journey that will demand not just his talent, but his heart, his mind, and soul. Part 1. The Dream. Eli's journey starts with a dream, one that was born quietly in the soft notes of a piano in his family's living room. The piano had belonged to his grandmother, an old instrument with chipped keys and a mellow, resonant sound. Eli remembers the first time he pressed down on one of those keys as a child, how it seemed to vibrate with a magic all its own. He felt connected to something larger than himself, as if each note he played was drawing him closer to some hidden truth. As he grew older, Eli's love for music became more than a hobby. It became his identity. Every free moment he had spent playing, lost in a world of melody and harmony. But as his passion grew, so did his awareness of expectations surrounding him. His family hoped he would go to a college, get a practical job, maybe take over the family business one day. To them, music was a lovely distraction, not a career. In the quiet hours of the night, Eli would sit by the window, torn between his love for his family and his need to answer the call of his music. The tension in his heart was nearly unbearable, a constant pull between the two worlds, the life he was expected to live and the life he longed to create. The choice to pursue greatness was not just about following his dream. It was a decision that would set him apart, one that would likely leave him misunderstood, isolated, and perhaps even resented by those he loved. This moment, this decision to commit himself fully to his dream, marks the first sacrifice Eli must make, the sacrifice of certainty and comfort. He realizes that his journey will lead him away from the predictable, the stable, and the safe. He will not have the kind of life that his friends and his family understand. He will venture into a world where there are no guarantees, only the thin thread of hope that his passion and hard work will be enough. Part 2. The First Sacrifice. Letting go of certainty. Stepping into the unknown, Eli feels the weight of a decision more than he expected. Every step he takes away from his family's expectations. Every day he spends dedicated to his music rather than following a more conventional path feels like a risk. He sees his friends graduating, getting stable jobs, settling into relationships, maybe even a family, while his life remains in a sea of uncertainty. This first sacrifice, the letting go of certainty, is profound and unsettling. Eli learns quickly that there are no guarantees in the life of an artist. The journey he has chosen is one marked by irregular income, intense competition, and the relentless need to prove himself. Each day he wakes up not knowing if his efforts will lead to success or if he will be one of those countless hopefuls who will never ever make it. In philosophical terms, this plunge into the unknown is essential for transformation. Kierkegaard called this the leap of faith, the willingness to step into uncertainty and to embrace the freedom that comes with it. This leap is terrifying as it forces Eli to release any illusions of control. In the beginning, he struggles with his lack of uncertainty. The path of greatness does not come with clear markers, no signpost to reassure him he's on the right path. There is only the work, day after day, and the hope that he is moving in the right direction. To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself. Søren Kierkegaard. This stage of Eli's journey tests his resolve. He feels the urge to turn back, to return to his family's safety for his whole life. Yet he knows he can't. The more he invests in his dream, the harder it is to abandon it, even though the uncertainty gnaws at him. Slowly he learns to live with it. He begins to understand the life he wants, one of passion, creativity, and greatness, requires him to abandon certainty and to find peace within the unknown. Each day, as he practices and refines his skill and practices more, he becomes a little stronger, a little more accustomed to the uncertainty that surrounds him. In time, he realizes that this lack of certainty is part of the beauty of his journey. It forces him to commit fully, to pour everything he has into each moment. The sacrifice of certainty teaches him to live in the present, to trust himself, and to embrace the freedom. Immersed in his craft. Friends invite him out, but he declines more often than not, aware that his dedication to music demands his full attention. His relationships begin to fray, his social circle shrinks, and he feels the sting of loneliness. Isolation is one of the most challenging sacrifices in the pursuit of greatness. Humans are social beings, and we derive much of our sense of self from our connections with others. But for Eli, each hour spent with friends is an hour taken away from his music. He begins to realize that the pursuit of greatness requires an all-consuming focus that often leaves little room for anything else. He must embrace solitude, finding companionship in his music rather than in people. Philosophers like Nietzsche argued that solitude is necessary for cultivation of greatness. Nietzsche believed that in order to create something original, one must step away from the influence of others and delve deeply into one's own thoughts and passions. Solitude, he argued, is the path of self-discovery, a way to become uniquely oneself. Whosoever is delighted in solitude is either a wild beast or a god. Aristotle. For Eli, solitude became both a burden and a blessing. At first, it was painful. He misses his friends, the camaraderie, the feeling of belonging in a group. He feels the weight of his choice, the sense that he is becoming a stranger to those he held close. But over time, he learns to find beauty in his solitude. He discovers a depth in his music that he hadn't known before, a voice that comes only in the quiet moments when he is entirely alone. In isolation, Eli begins to understand himself even better. He finds his own rhythm, his own perspective, untainted by the expectations or judgment of others. Solitude sharpens his vision, allowing him to connect with his music on a deeper, more intimate level. It is a painful sacrifice, but one that ultimately strengthens him. He learns that greatness demands a willingness to stand alone, to embrace the quiet, and to find strength within himself. Part 4: The Third Sacrifice: Facing Failure and Humiliation. As Eli continues on his path, he encounters failures in ways he had never even anticipated. He auditions for prestigious programs and is rejected. He performs at small venues and receives harsh feedback from critics. His mistakes are laid bare, each misstep an open wound on his pride. Failure is a teacher, but it is a very harsh one. It strips away illusions and forces Eli to confront his limitations. He begins to see the greatness in not just about talent or passion. It's about resilience. It's about the ability to stand back up after being knocked down again and again, to learn from mistakes, and to keep going in the face of humiliation. Philosophers like Albert Camus spoke of the need to embrace the absurdity of life, to find meaning even when faced with failure and disappointment. Camus argued that life's value lies not in achieving perfection, but in the struggle, the act of striving despite knowing that failure is inevitable. For Eli, each failure became a lesson, each rejection a step toward refining his craft. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. Through failure, Eli learns humility. He realizes that greatness is not about being flawless, but about being relentless. Each failure toughens him, teaching him to separate his self-worth from his achievements. He learns to see failure not as an endpoint but as a stepping stone. It is a painful process, one that tests his resolve, but is also one that shapes him into a person capable of achieving true greatness. The fourth sacrifice: relinquishing personal comfort. As Eli's journey progresses, he realizes that pursuing greatness often demands the sacrifice of personal comfort. The life of an artist, especially one striving for greatness, is rarely luxurious. Money is tight, and while others his age may have steady jobs, stable homes, and reliable income, Eli's life is a life filled with uncertainty and financial strain. There are nights when he wonders if he'll have enough to cover his next meal, let alone afford a comfortable place to stay. This sacrifice, the relinquishment of comfort, goes beyond his physical hardship. It's a psychological test of resilience. In his lowest moments, when he feels exhausted, hungry, or cold, he is forced to confront the value he places on his dream. Is it worth this? Could he go back to an easier life where he wouldn't have to face these daily struggles? Eli recalls stories of past greats who endured similar trials. He remembers reading about Vincent van Gogh, who, despite his poverty and mental struggles, continued painting until the very end. He thinks of Beethoven, who composed masterpieces even as he went deaf, choosing his art over his own physical and emotional comfort. These figures serve as reminders that greatness demands a relentless commitment, a willingness to continue despite discomfort and hardship. In these difficult moments, Eli finds himself thinking about nature of sacrifice. He realizes that comfort can sometimes be an enemy to greatness, creating a complacency that dulls the edge of ambition. For him, each sacrifice of comfort strengthens his resolve, reinforcing his commitment to his craft. He begins to see his hardships as a kind of purification, a test to determine whether he truly desires greatness or if he is simply chasing a fantasy. Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. Ralph Waldo Emerson Eli's struggle with comfort goes beyond just physical needs. It touches on his identity, forcing him to strip away superficial desires and focus only on his art. In doing so, he learns to appreciate simplicity. He finds joy in little things, a warm meal after a long day, the beauty of music echoing in an empty room, the fleeting connections he makes with others who understand his journey. This sacrifice brings him closer to his art, grounding him in a profound humility and appreciating every small victory. The fifth sacrifice, enduring self-doubt and fear. The pursuit of greatness brings with it an intense self-scrutiny that often spirals into self-doubt and fear. For Eli, each day presents a new challenge, not just externally in the form of skill and technique, but internally as he battles the voice in his head that questions his ability and worthless. Eli often lies awake at night, haunted by thoughts of inadequacy. He wonders if he has what it takes to be good enough to make his dream a reality. He recalls moments of failures, times when he stumbled his performance or forgot a passage in an audition. And these memories become fuel for his inner critic. Self-doubt, he realizes, is a constant companion on the journey to greatness. A shadow that follows him, whispering questions he doesn't always have the strength to answer. This battle with self-doubt is perhaps one of the most challenging sacrifices, for it requires Eli to confront his own weaknesses and insecurities on the daily. In these moments, he turns to philosophy for comfort. He finds solace in the words of Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, who spoke about accepting the things we cannot change and focusing on things within our control. Eli learns that while he cannot silence his doubts entirely, he can choose how to respond to them. He begins to practice resilience, learning to acknowledge his fears without letting them control him. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. The philosophical idea of amor fati, or love of fate, becomes a guiding principle for him. He learns to embrace each challenge, each failure as part of his journey. It is a radical shift, one that doesn't eliminate self-doubt but transforms it into a source of strength for Eli. His struggle with fear and doubt teaches him that greatness is not about perfection, but about perseverance. Each time he chooses to move forward despite his doubts, he becomes a little stronger, a little closer to his true self. The sixth sacrifice, releasing attachment to outcome. As Eli's journey progresses, he finds himself increasingly focused on the idea of success. He dreams of recognition, fame, and validation for his work. However, as time passes, he begins to realize that his fixation on the outcome is clouding his passion for the process. He notices that he is becoming obsessed with external awards, and this attachment begins to drain the joy from his music. His once pure love for art is tainted by a need for validation, and this realization forces him to confront yet another sacrifice, the sacrifice of attachment to outcome. This shift in perspective is one of the most profound moments in Eli's journey. He starts to understand that greatness is not measured by fame or applause, but by the depth of one's commitment to the craft itself. The journey he realizes by his own reward, and true greatness comes not from seeking validation, but from immersing oneself fully in the work. Here, Eli turns to Eastern philosophy, exploring the concept of Wu Wei, or effortless action, from Taoism. This principle teaches him to let go of his need for control, to flow with the natural rhythm of his art without forcing it for a specific goal. He learns to find fulfillment in the art of creation itself, rather than in promise of external success. This sacrifice, releasing attachment to outcome, liberates him, allowing him to reconnect with the pure joy of music. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Lao Tzu. In letting go of his attachment to outcome, Eli finds a new sense of freedom. He rediscovers the thrill of playing for the sake of playing, of creating for the sake of creation. This sacrifice transforms him, teaching him that true greatness lies in the process, in the willingness to pour oneself into one's work without expecting anything in return. It is a difficult lesson, but one that ultimately brings him peace and fulfillment beyond what he ever anticipated. The seventh sacrifice, accepting the possibility of failure. Eli's journey is one filled with highs and lows, moments of triumph and times of despair. Yet perhaps the greatest challenge he faces is the realization, even after all his sacrifices, he may still fail. There is no guarantee of success, no certainty that his hard work will be rewarded. This is the final sacrifice, the acceptance of possibility of failure. This realization is a humbling one. Eli recognizes that he may never achieve the recognition or dreams of, that in his path may end in obscurity rather than fame. He is forced to confront the fragility of his dream and the uncertainty of his future. It is a painful moment but also a liberating one, for it allows him to realize the success of failure and the embrace of freedom that comes from taking risks without the guarantee of success. Eli finds guidance in existential philosophy, particularly in the writings of John Paul Sartre, who emphasized the importance of creating meaning in an indifferent universe. Sartre's philosophy encourages Eli to define his own value, to see his worth not in terms of external success, but in his own dedication and authenticity. This shift allows Eli to let go of his need for validation, to pursue greatness not for the approval of others, but for the satisfaction of knowing he gave his best. Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. Jean Paul Sartre. In accepting the possibility of failure, Eli learns to embrace the fullness of his humanity. He understands that greatness is not about achieving perfection or avoiding failure, but about the courage to pursue one's dream despite the risks. This final sacrifice frees him from the fear, allowing him to pursue his passion with an open heart and a fearless spirit. It is a profound transformation, one that completes his journey and transforms him and leaves him with a sense of peace and fulfillment. The awakening. After years of sacrifice, struggle, and self-discovery, Eli stands on a stage, looking out to the audience. The applause echoes in his ear, but this time he hears it differently. It's not the applause that defines his worth. It is the journey he has taken, the sacrifices he made, and the person he has become. This story is a testament to the truth that greatness is not a destination but a process. It's a journey that demands everything: comfort, relationships, certainty, security. But it gives you back something far greater: the discovery of one's truest self. The sacrifices are immense, but through them, Eli has found a strength and purpose that can only become from walking the path less traveled. In the end, Eli realizes that the pursuit of greatness is not about external achievements, but about the inner transformation that occurs along the way. He has become more than just a musician. He has become a person of resilience, humility, and an unwavering dedication. His journey teaches us that while the path to greatness is steep and filled with sacrifices, those who are willing to make them find themselves transformed in ways they could have never imagined. What we achieve inwardly will change outer reality. Plutarch.